All right, hey Vikings fans, welcome into another episode of the Skol Hop. I'm Evan.
I'm Austin.
We're just a couple of dudes from Iowa. We like drinking beer, talking about the Vikings.
Yeah, we do. And we also had to spin the wheel this episode, and I don't know, man. That got kind of uncomfortable.
Yeah, it wasn't great, but we also tried a pretty good beer from No Coast Brewing, so I enjoyed that.
Yep, and then we gave a really great recap of this 2024-25 season, especially the last couple of games of the season, and then we kind of looked ahead to what they could do early in the offseason.
Yeah, so the beer was so good we don't have any left, but grab a cold one of your choice and join us for episode 76 of the Skol Hop.
Yeah, Skol.
Skol. And it's GIF, not GIF.
It's totally GIF. All right, we want to give a big shout out to show sponsor Big Top Ventures for sponsoring today's episode and really just all of the Skol Hop in general. If you are looking to take an all-inclusive trip to a Mexican or Jamaican all-inclusive resort, go ahead and reach out to our friends at Big Top Ventures and they will get you the best price possible. I can vouch for that because I've been on all-inclusive trips through Big Top Ventures a few times here in the last couple of years, and they truthfully have the best price possible. So reach out to them. Even if you just want to see how much it is, reach out to them. How can they reach out to them, Ev?
You can email them. We're going to put that right down here, bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. And yeah, let them know what you're looking to do. They'll hit you up.
Yeah, they're great people, easy to work with, and you'll really enjoy the experience. So thanks again, Big Top Ventures.
Yeah, thanks, Big Top. You know what we have to do?
I think we just skip it. We just skip it this time. It's been a rough couple of weeks.
I know, but we've committed to this.
Yeah, we can't skip it.
We have to do it. We just have to. So
right.
We are going to be spinning the wheel of purple punishments. We both picked the Vikings to win in this wild card round of the playoffs against the Rams, and they did not. They lost.
There has been a lot of football played since the last time we released a full episode. So the last full episode was the day before. We recorded the day before the Vikings-Rams game in the wild card round, which I'm honestly shocked that the Vikings didn't win that one. Yes, the Rams are a good team, and I respect them. It's not like I thought it would be a huge blowout by any means. I think we could probably go back. I think I predicted like a 4-point win for the Vikings or something like that.
Yep.
But man, I'm surprised. I'm surprised the Vikings didn't pull it out, and we're going to get punished for that. You obviously picked a win too. And
yeah, we both did. We were both pretty confident that they would at least win one game and not be one and dones like they were 2 years ago.
Yeah, they got to, not like the Lions, that you got to do better than the Lions did in the playoffs, but apparently they didn't. So,
well, let's spin this. Let's get it over with. Let's figure out what our fate is, and then we'll get into beer and the rest of the episode.
Yeah.
So,
all
here we go. We will be sitting in a child's chair. All right.
Oh, man, I'm going to break this chair.
You're not going to break it. We are going to take a quick pause right now. We're going to get that all set up. And then the next time you see us, we'll be down here somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay?
All right. Ready, break.
All right. We're back. And we're in children's chairs now.
Yeah. I'm very surprised. This chair doesn't feel like it's given at all.
Thing was
Fisher
built,
Price.
It was built in the 90s,
or
man.
Little Tykes. Maybe that's
whatever. Yeah, Little Tykes. There it is.
Maybe that's what it is. Little Tykes. I'm more than a 250-pound man, and this little tiny yellow chair is holding me.
You're gonna be just fine.
We'll see, though. I mean, I'd buy you a new set if I break through this, and it would make for great content, I think. But
well, it took us a solid 10 minutes probably to get
Was it
everything
really 10 minutes?
reconnoitered, and
maybe we'll do the like time lapse and add that into like the end or something.
the time lapse will make it into the final edit somewhere somehow,
because we did video record the whole thing.
It's been rolling the whole time. So regardless, we're here. We are probably gonna have some sore backs, maybe a sore tailbone tomorrow, and that's gonna be the true punishment.
Yep.
But
it's the true punishment is the back pain we earn along the way. So
let's get into this beer.
Yeah.
I picked up this beer today. It's from Hy-Vee, of course, because that's where we always go. No Coast Brewing out of Oskaloosa, Iowa. This is their coffee and cream porter, and I'm actually now closer to the camera, so maybe you can see the can.
Yeah. The can art looks pretty cool. I just opened my can. I haven't tried. Well, I guess I licked a couple drops off my hand, but I didn't really get the flavor. Be careful when you open it, because
is it really full?
Well, I mean, there's a couple drops on the table, and you can see the liquid is right at the top there.
Yeah, I just got it all over my hand.
Yeah, we usually have the paper towel is nice and handy, but we're sitting in a child's table right in front of the Skol Man Center, so that's not the case right now.
I'm gonna do an Austin pour because I only have one hand.
That's all right.
So
I'm really excited to try this one out. Did you end up reading the back of it? I was more preoccupied with the mess that I made here.
I did not. I can in a second when I'm finished pouring. I'll let the foam die down. This doesn't really describe the beer itself.
I saw their middle festo.
It's their
part,
middle festo.
But I thought that was the description. Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. Coffee and cream porter.
It's a coffee porter with lactose. So I think the lactose probably acts as the cream aspect. Maybe there's actual cream in it too. It doesn't say, but this is a 7%er. This is kind of hefty.
All right.
So
holds its own.
Yep.
So yeah, No Coast. We've had a few of their beers in the past. I wish I could remember the last one that we had, or the most recent No Coast beer that we tried, but I can't really remember it. Some of the ones that we've had were the Van Gogh and was it Iowa IPA, or is that? I don't think that's No Coast.
I'd have to go back and look at our list, but yeah, we've definitely had a few No Coast beers now at this point in the podcast, so I'm excited to try this one.
Well, I think we just stop yakking and start drinking some No Coast beer. Skol.
It's pretty good. I like it.
Oh yeah, I think that first drink was mostly foam for me.
Yep.
If you're watching, one, it's hilarious because we're sitting in little Tykes chairs drinking beer. But two, you can see it's got really good head retention. Pitch dark, like
can't see through it at all.
We've got a light right next to us, and there's no semblance of light coming through that beer at all, which is awesome. Really coffee.
Yeah,
but not coffee,
but not so strong. Like I think I always compare a coffee beer to single speed Tip the Cow.
Yeah.
That is like coffee. Like if you love coffee and you love intense coffee, that's a good beer for you. This doesn't remind me of that in a good way.
Yeah,
it's a little more mellow on the coffee, and I like Tip the Cow, but this is definitely more on the chill side of a coffee beer.
I wonder if that's maybe because they nailed the coffee and cream aspect.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, a cup of black coffee tastes pretty different than a cup of coffee with a couple creams in there. So, yeah, I think they nailed it. It's really good. And it's 7%, definitely holding its own. I like this a lot, which is kind of crazy because, like, my normal coffee drinking habits, I drink a lot of coffee, and I can't have it cold or cream or sugar or anything. It's got to be just straight hot and black. This is a really good flavor. I like this a lot.
Good stuff. Yeah, good beer, No Coast. We'll definitely share our final thoughts after we've gone through a few of these at the end of the episode. But
and maybe it'll help the discomfort. I'm starting to feel it, Ev. I'm starting to feel a little annoyed that my knees are hitting my chest because I'm in this little yellow chair. I don't know if it would be worse to break the chair and then I'd have to sit like Indian style on the floor or something like that. But I don't know. We'll get there. Maybe this will be a short episode.
I'm pretty comfy now, but I do think my tailbone will start barking at me at some point.
Yeah.
So, but
we'll get there.
We will.
It's a journey we're on together. Can you imagine if this would have been one that like I rolled and you got to sit in the comfy desk and I just had to sit in front of the desk without you? I'm glad we're doing this together.
We're in it together, man.
Skol.
And we're going to drink beer while we do it. And we're going to commiserate for a little while about the fact that this Vikings season is now over.
Yeah, it's not even bittersweet. It's just bitter.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, nobody expected the Vikings to win more than 6, 7, 8 wins. But I hate that. It's like, oh, it's okay. It's okay they lost because we didn't expect them to do good anyways. No, that's loser mentality. I mean, it does kind of make you feel a little bit better, but I hate it because they could have been there. I mean, you get so few opportunities to win the big game as an NFL team, especially when every year it seems to be the Chiefs and somebody else. I mean, it sucks when this team has looked so good for so long throughout the season, and then the last 2 games, they just completely crumble.
Yeah.
And they ultimately only ever lost to 2 different NFL teams. Yeah, they didn't blow out everybody. They had a really close game against the Cardinals. 1 point, was it 25-24 was the final score of that game? Either way, it was a 1-point win. They had a really messy, ugly game against the Jaguars. The Titans game didn't look too great. So it wasn't, knife through butter all season. But, man, they looked really darn good. And Sam Darnold, for a lot of the season, looked great until the final 2 games, and ultimately ending in the Rams game when he looked pretty awful.
Yeah, he definitely turned into a pumpkin in those last 2 games. It was rough. I think, going back to your earlier comments, when you eclipse that 10, 11 win mark as a team in the NFL, once you get to that point, you are almost guaranteed to be in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. Almost. Obviously, this year, it wasn't a guarantee, especially in the NFC North, which was super competitive. But I think when you get to that point and you're the head coach of a team, you get to 10, 11 wins, which the Vikings did. How soon? When did they hit 10 wins? They hit 10 wins in week 13.
Yeah, they would have been.
That Cardinals game, which was 23-22, by the way.
Oh, okay. I had the 1-point win in my head. It
was a 1-point win. But, I mean, I think at that point, you're shifting your focus to the playoffs. Now, the playoffs were not set in stone for the Vikings this year. I think any other team in any other division probably would have started to think, okay, playoffs. Who cares what happens the rest of the time? But I don't know. The collapse there at the end was just kind of unprecedented almost, especially for a team that played really well, a team that put up 21 points on the Falcons in the fourth quarter. A team that took the Lions basically to the end in week 7.
A team all the way down to the final play.
A team that was a few plays away from beating the Rams in week 8. So I don't know. It's heartbreaking. It stinks. I did see something today, and we can talk about this later, but Sam Darnold is still expected to, I think, get big money.
Yeah, I would think so.
I don't know if that's what the Vikings, I think a lot of us would say probably not. But
yeah, I think I was seeing and even thinking towards the end there before that final Lions game, it was one of those Sam Darnold, he's earned his way all the way up to a more than $40 million a year contract for 3, 4, 5, however many years. And it seemed like that was definitely going to be what would happen. And in that scenario, I was saying as late as, a couple of days before the Lions game that my official stance, which has changed now, but for a minute, I was really hoping, okay, Sam Darnold, he's proven it. He's proven he's the one. He and KOC mix well together. I was saying I wanted the Vikings to, no matter what, franchise tag Sam Darnold, which would give him probably, I think it's going to be around, I don't think it's set yet for the quarterback this coming year, but probably around $40-ish million, 40, 41, 42, whatever it is, for 1 year, which is a hefty price tag. That's probably, that's more than half of what the Vikings have in free agency money coming into it, which they have quite a bit. But I wanted them to franchise tag Sam Darnold and give J.J. McCarthy a true redshirt year where he's not rehabbing, where he's not learning how to be a professional football player. Really let J.J. McCarthy be a healthy quarterback too, and then take the reins as a fresh 23-year-old in 2026. And maybe it's me being immature. The Lions game and the Rams game really changed my tune on that. I think, like you said, Sam Darnold, he's going to get paid. it might be the $40 million a year mark, but I think now it's probably more realistically like 25, 30.
Yeah.
With probably somebody else. And I'm okay with that. Let's go to JJ. Just off 2 rough games. It's crazy. I recognize that it's crazy that my attitude has changed just off 2 games, but that's where I am.
I think the entire fan base has changed their perspective on Sam Darnold. I don't really know that there's a lot of people out there that are like, yeah, bring the guy back. He's the answer. We're going to the Super Bowl next year. I don't think that's it. And I'm with you. If he came back, I wouldn't be upset about it.
No, I'm not throwing, the remote against the wall or anything,
right.
But
he played well, and he played well through 14 wins. Well, and he lost to 2 teams and only 2 teams, proving that he can beat a lot of teams in this league with, I think, some really good coaching on the sideline. His biggest flaw is trying to hold the ball and trying to wait for a play to develop. I think he would benefit from a strong offensive line.
Oh, 100%.
And that the cracks in that were on full display in Week 18, and then again in the wild card round.
And we can maybe get into addressing that issue here a little bit later in this episode. But
I mean, that was on full display, and that didn't help him at all. I mean, he took 9 sacks for, I think, what did he lose, like 82 yards?
Yeah, and I think those 9 sacks are a record in a playoff game.
Yeah, and so to take that many sacks to lose that many yards, you might not have a running back. I don't know that Aaron Jones had 82 yards. That just occurred to me. Like, Sam Darnold may have lost more yards in sacks than Aaron Jones gained rushing the ball.
To that point, there was definitely a point in the game, sometime in the late second, early third, that I thought about that, and that the TV said something like, "Oh yeah, Aaron Jones just hit 45 or just hit 50 yards," and I was like, well, shoot, Sam Darnold's already negated that with all the sack yards. So I don't know what it ended up being at the end of the game, but I think it was pretty close. Like,
it's
Aaron Jones didn't matter his yards just because those were negated anyways.
And then in both games, it seemed like the coaches had kind of given up too. Yeah. It seemed like they just kind of threw in the towel. Obviously, in the Detroit game, it was a foregone conclusion. Well, we're going to LA. We're going to be playing the Rams. So, and I think Kevin O'Connell even kind of admitted that in his post-game press conference after that game. Like, well, yep, at some point we just kind of knew what was going to happen, and we had to start preparing for the Rams. And I don't know what he was thinking at the end of the Rams game, because it's like there's nothing to prepare for now.
Yeah.
It's win or go home. So why are we running the ball in the third quarter when we're down by 15 points or whatever it was?
And even punting the ball, even I think it was something with 4 or 5-ish minutes left in the game, they punted the ball. Like, yeah, I think mathematically at that point it was not going to happen, but you still fight. Like, that's frustrating to see. Just giving up. But it's over. At least it's over. And at least it's also over for the Lions. And at least it's also over for the Packers. I'm not one of those guys that, oh, no, we got to root for the other NFC North teams. Or there's a whole bunch of people like, no, I want the Lions to do it because they've never done it.
You're a little vindictive.
Yeah. No, if it's not me, I don't want it to be you. And I almost... I wasn't rooting for any team. You know, after your team's out of it, you typically have like, oh, I really hope the Texans do it this year. You know, that'd be really cool. And nope, no, not at all. I only this year had one team that I didn't want it to happen for, and they lost to the Commanders. So now I'm actually enjoying watching these playoff games now.
So we've got 4 teams left. Washington's going to go to Philly for the NFC Championship game. Buffalo goes to Kansas City for the AFC Championship game. Which game are you more excited about, and who do you want to see in the Super Bowl?
So, I mean, yeah, anything I say doesn't matter. But I think for me, I'd really enjoy seeing a Commanders-Bills Super Bowl.
I think that's what most of America wants.
Yeah.
Unless you live in Philadelphia or Kansas City.
Have you seen the memes of like the maps?
The whole map. And it's like everybody here wants Washington and Buffalo, and everyone here and here wants Philly and Kansas City.
Yep. And it's funny because I think we recently just talked about this. the only Super Bowl ever played in the Metrodome. I believe it was the only Super Bowl ever played in the Metrodome. Trivia question you gave me at another event, 1992. Well, the 91.
82, I think.
I guessed 81, 82. Or I guessed 82.
No, 92, I think it was.
It was like January of 92. Anyways, the only Super Bowl ever played in the Metrodome, the Redskins beat the Bills. So that'd be interesting. I wonder if that's the last time either team has made the Super Bowl.
It was 92. You are right.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's the last time either has made the Super Bowl, but yeah, that'd be okay. I would enjoy that one. I don't hate the Chiefs. There's a lot of people that are saying I hate the Chiefs. They can't win it. They win it every year. They're the new Patriots. I kind of get that, and I'd be okay with them not getting it ever again because they've got 3 of the last 4 or something like that. But I mean, at this point, if nobody can stop them, nobody can stop them. I don't like Eagles fans. They go back and forth with me on which fan base is the worst between them and the Lions. Right now, I don't know. They're probably about tied, but I love how mad Lions fans are right now. So, yeah, just for the Commanders and Bills. That's who I'm rooting for. What about you?
I'm definitely in the same boat. I'm with the rest of America, I think, as well. I think that's the Super Bowl I'd like to see. I don't like Philly fans either. I really don't like their team a whole lot, even though they have some really good players, and I wouldn't mind having some of them in Minnesota. That'd be nice. And I definitely feel strongly about Kansas City. Don't want to see them win. They've won too much. They are the new Patriots in my eyes, and it's time for them to be done. I mean, let's move on. Let's get another team in there. Let's get the Bills a championship. They can commiserate with Vikings fans because they've also been to 4 and lost 4. If anybody's going to get there and win one before the Vikings, I'd be happy to see the Bills. I have nothing against the Bills unless the Vikings are playing the Bills.
Yeah, I agree.
And then, I would be against the Bills. But in this scenario, yeah, Buffalo.
Especially now that Stephon Diggs is not a Bill.
Yeah.
That would have been the one, like when the Seahawks won it that one year when Percy Harvin was with them. It's like, Percy's a jerk. He doesn't deserve a Super Bowl. And he only ever played like 3 games, and one of them was like to get him to the Super Bowl. Like, that was annoying. But yeah, the Bills, I mean, I don't know. If you hate listeners and watchers, if you hate the Bills, let us know why. I feel like Josh Allen seems to be an easy guy to root for. I've never heard a bad word said about him.
Did you see immediately after, like, the clock, I don't even think had hit 3 zeros yet, and Josh Allen sprinted across the field, found Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson just lost in the divisional round of the playoffs, and he had the biggest smile on his face.
Yeah.
And they shared a really good hug together, and I was just like, that's what this is all about. That's what football is all about. And I like seeing that.
Yeah, Lamar was crushed at that moment. Who wouldn't be?
Right.
But yeah, it's as if they had like planned that out. I don't know if they did. I doubt they did, but it was almost as if they had planned it out. Like, hey, no matter what happens, I'm running straight to you and giving you a hug and a high five. Because I mean, those guys are connected too. Weren't they drafted in the same year? They've been going back and forth on MVP honors the last couple of years. Josh Allen's never won one, but it seems like this year could be the year. Hot take: I think Joe Burrow should be a lot more talked about as an MVP.
Really?
Just his team sucked around him this year, and they almost made the playoffs. I think Joe Burrow should be comeback player of the year, based on the way he played last year with injury, and then came back, and I think he led the league in touchdown passes and yards and stuff. Anyways, not to tangent too much.
Well, I think if you're going to make the case for Joe Burrow as MVP, I think Sam Darnold slightly edges Joe Burrow in that conversation.
I mean, maybe, but
slightly.
Stat-wise, Joe Burrow blows him out of the water in everything except for wins. Maybe not blows him out of the water, but definitely beats him.
I mean, there was that stretch there of, I don't remember how many consecutive games Sam Darnold had that 100 plus passer rating. Like, he was throwing the ball really, really good. So I don't know. I'd have to do a kind of a 1-for-1 comparison between the two in the regular season. I don't know what that looks like, but I think some of Sam's stats and his win totals maybe edges him just a little bit. And the fact that he made the playoffs. I mean, and the Bengals were right there. Like, they were hanging on. They were hoping Denver lost, and then Kansas City kind of pulled a fast one on everybody, rested everybody, and got blown out 38-0 because they had nothing to lose. And that sealed the deal for the Broncos to make the playoffs. And I think was it the Dolphins and the Bengals that were waiting to get in?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
And they both needed Denver to lose, and I think they both needed the other to lose as well to get in. And of course that didn't happen, but anyways.
But all that to say, I think, in my opinion, and we seem to keep going off random branches, the MVP award this year, to me, I feel like it's going to come down to Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen.
Yeah. Yep.
For me, I think it's Josh Allen. What about for you?
It's really tough. I think the fact that Josh Allen is still playing matters a lot, but I know they only really factor in the regular season in the MVP.
I'm pretty sure like they already like put the votes in last week. Like,
sure.
The decision has already been made. It's just not public, and I don't know who's won it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really, really close. I think you have to go with Josh Allen though, because he's done it all this season. He's run and passed really, really well. And he's kind of given up. I heard, I think it was Tony Romo was calling the game. And Tony Romo said, yeah, he's kind of given up this gunslinger mentality. And he's kind of settled down a little bit. And he's kind of let the game come to him rather than just trying to force stuff all the time. And that's really going to benefit him. And it seems to have benefited him in the playoffs, in the snow, playing in that divisional game against the Ravens. So I know playoffs aren't factored in.
Shouldn't be. But
I think Josh Allen edges Lamar just ever so slightly. And Lamar, he's a good running quarterback too. He's he's kind of carried his team. Lamar had the benefit of, one of the league's best running backs.
One of, absolutely.
Out.
King Henry,
So that helped him out a lot. And I think I didn't really follow the Ravens a ton this year, but I think he dealt with some injury too to some of his receivers and tight ends.
Oh, yeah. Well, and in the playoff game, Zay Flowers, he was
Zay Flowers went out.
He was questionable before the game. He caught a touchdown, and I don't know if he finished the game. And
then Mark Andrews with that historic drop on the 2-point conversion.
After that fumble. He never fumbles, and he never drops balls.
Yep.
And a fumble and a dropped ball by him unfortunately skewed that game. I hope that dude's okay, because awful people online have probably said terrible things, and he's a really good player that, everybody makes a mistake every once in a while. Like, jeez. But so does it kind of sound like we both think maybe Josh Allen?
Yeah, I think Josh Allen. And again, I'd love to see him in a Super Bowl. I think it'd be super cool if he did what Kurt Warner did, and he's the only one to ever do it.
Oh, yeah.
Win the regular season MVP, win the Super Bowl, and win Super Bowl MVP. That would be super cool. And I can think of a very short list of people that deserve that more than Josh Allen. He's up there for sure.
Unless he's some like secret evil person behind the scenes. Like I said earlier, I've never heard a bad word said about him. He's always, he's had a lot of hype his whole career, and then he came out in his first 1 or 2 seasons. It's like, oh man, this guy's gonna flame out, he's gonna bust out. And then I think his first great game was against the Vikings in like 2018 or something like that. Probably. He hurled over a Viking, and it was one of those trap games the Vikings ended up losing. But anyways, Josh Allen, I think he should be your MVP. Although if it's Lamar Jackson, I think he's
very deserving.
Yeah, it'll come down to those two, and I think they both deserve it. And that's not even talking about a 2,000-yard rusher in Saquon,
right?
Saquon Barkley, but he's not a quarterback, and it's not 2012, so a running back's not going to win it.
Well, let's talk about another former MVP. He's not going to win it this year. I'm pretty confident in that. But there have been some rumors. We're going to move into the Skol Patrol segment here where we hit up Twitter.
Okay.
And I found a few tweets that I thought we could talk about. So we'll flash those tweets up on the screen here, and we'll just talk about them a little bit. So this first one that I found, it was posted by the Viking Age, pretty well-known Viking Twitter account, and they just ask the question, on a scale of 1 to 10, how tired are you of hearing people say Aaron Rodgers is coming to the Vikings? I was trying to find the tweet that said fulfill the prophecy, because if you've been a Vikings fan for any length of time, you know that Brett Favre left the Packers, went to the Jets, and then ended up playing 2 seasons for the Vikings before he retired. Aaron Rodgers has kind of followed a similar path, and there are people out there that I guess are banging the table for this prophecy, for this thing that's already happened to happen again. I don't know. How would you answer that question on a scale of 1 to 10? How tired are you of hearing people say Rodgers is coming to the Vikings?
I think it wouldn't even be talked about if it wasn't for that previous Favre as a Packer to Favre as a Jet, ultimately Favre as a Viking. If not for that, we wouldn't even really have that as a talking point. That seems like one of those Stephen A. Smith, ESPN talking points, like, oh, it happened once, so it's going to happen again. If we're just looking at the players, I think at this moment, how old? Aaron Rodgers, he's 41.
41, okay.
41 right now. As of this time, right before Favre signed with the Vikings after his tenure with the Jets, and Rodgers right now, whose Jets tenure isn't even technically over. I think at that time in 2009, Favre was a better quarterback then than Aaron Rodgers is at this moment. You could argue about their careers, how it's gone and who the ultimate better one is, but as far as like the moment before the talk, like the maybe signing with the Vikings, Favre then was better than Rodgers is now.
Yes.
The Vikings quarterback situation is a little bit different now than it was in, early 2009. Vikings didn't have anybody. You're talking about, their QB1 was going to be Tavares Jackson, I'm pretty sure. Other than that, they were just coming off a year where it was like Brooks Bollinger and, which I think Brooks Bollinger is actually like a genuinely good dude, but like the Vikings had no prospects.
It was a forgettable season.
Yeah,
for the Vikings.
And it was a dark, empty hole at quarterback. Sorry if you love Tavares Jackson, rest in peace. Right now, the Vikings, they have options. Sam Darnold is still an option to re-sign. And I think at this moment, 2024 Sam Darnold is better than 2024 Aaron Rodgers. I don't think that's too much of a hot take. Yeah, Darnold, and I just kind of crapped on him about his final 2 games of the season, and that's why I'm okay with moving on. Even with those final 2 games of the season, I would take Sam Darnold over Aaron Rodgers right now. Not over their careers. Aaron Rodgers is one of the best of all time, but right now, no. It's Darnold.
So you're at a 10. Like, I'm super annoyed, and I want people to stop talking about it.
I'm not annoyed about it. I think everything I just said was my way of saying I don't think it's even that realistic. Yeah. It just seems like a caricature argument or talking point, like, oh, it could happen and repeat history and fulfill the prophecy. It'd be funny. I'd be here for it. I'd watch it, but like I wouldn't be sitting here thinking like, oh crap, the Vikings are for real now. They're gonna do it. And I went through all that. I didn't even mention J.J. McCarthy's name. I'm fully on board with let's go with J.J. McCarthy. I think at this moment, potential QB2 for the Vikings next year, Daniel Jones, might be a more comfortable rosterable quarterback than at this moment Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers seems over it. He seems done. He might just retire. I'd be surprised if he didn't.
And I don't see him gelling well with this team at all, because you basically have a GM and a head coach wearing a football helmet. And I think that's why Robert Saleh didn't last long in New York, and I think that's why Mike McCarthy got chased out of Green Bay. And I'm shocked that he had even a little bit of success with Matt LaFleur. I think he ran all over Matt LaFleur, and then when he left, everything kind of opened up for LaFleur. And he's like, oh, wow, I actually have control over this team. This is new, right? So I don't know that he is the right fit. I'm annoyed. I don't want to talk about this anymore because the Vikings have a lot of options at quarterback. And even if J.J. McCarthy isn't, an option next year because he's rehabbing or they want to redshirt him or whatever.
Yeah.
I think you still have a whole list of other guys, Sam Darnold, Daniel Jones, and you've got a few other options out in the league. And then you still have Nick Mullins. He's going to be a free agent. But
Is he? Okay.
He's set to be a free agent. You could bring him back. And I'm pretty sure they signed Brett Rippon back.
Well, I know Rippon was on the practice squad to end the season. I haven't seen, did he sign a futures contract?
I think he's on a futures contract for next year, according to overthecap.com.
Okay. I'd believe it, and that's fine.
So,
I mean, yeah, that'd be okay.
That's my source. But anyways, yeah, I'm maybe a little bit more passionate about this than you are. Like, shut up. We're not going to talk about Aaron Rodgers coming to the Vikings anymore. That's stupid. That guy might be done playing football, and I'd be more than okay with that.
There's two differences, which I think explain our different level of annoyance about this. I think we both can agree, but I definitely know it's not a realistic option. Aaron Rodgers will not. I would bet $1,000 right now that Aaron Rodgers is not going to be a Viking quarterback in 2025.
All right, we're going to make that bet right now. And if that happens, that $1,000 is coming to the Skol House.
Okay. All right. But I definitely think, I don't know. I don't want to sound like I'm crapping on you. I think I'm pretty cemented, and I feel like you probably are too. Aaron Rodgers is not going to be a Vikings quarterback. It's not even an option. There's so many better options. And number two, and again, I don't want to sound like I'm crapping on you because this will apply to a lot of people that probably listen to us and watch us. I don't watch a lot of ESPN. Like, I'm not one that, like, just when I flip the TV on, it's like random YouTube videos about like Blackstone griddle cooking recipes. You know, it's not listening to Stephen A. Smith or Around the Horn talking about like, oh, somebody tweeted Aaron Rodgers could be a Viking, which, and not saying you shouldn't be entertained by stuff like that, but like when you flip the TV on and it's just you're probably just watching ESPN and whatever they're talking about, right? Usually. That is something they talk about. So it's like you hear it more than I do, so You're probably more annoyed about it than I am. So
that's fair.
Either way, I don't even think it's like that is as worth talking about to me as Brett Favre coming out of retirement and signing back with the Vikings. Like, I think both of those options have the same possibility of happening.
Well, let's switch gears again.
Sorry, I got really passionate about that.
You did. I'm going to get you off your pedestal
Let's
here.
go.
But another ESPN thing that came out towards the end of the season, Jay Glazer hit the news with, Kevin O'Connell, he's a sneaky trade candidate. That there are a bunch of teams out there that are going to want to trade for a head coach, and he's one of them, and he's not happy in Minnesota. And he made, I don't even know if that was a claim he made, but people have since made claims like that and have kind of bought into this conspiracy that Kevin O'Connell could be traded away from the Vikings. I don't believe that for 1 second. I don't think KOC has entertained any of those things for even a moment. And
well, he wouldn't even be the first one to entertain that.
No, I don't think. I don't think the Wilfs, I don't think Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah, I don't think any of those people above KOC have even contemplated that. So, with that, I think Kevin O'Connell coming back to the Vikings is a lock. I don't think there's a scenario where Kevin O'Connell isn't the head coach of the Vikings next year, and I'll put $1,000 on that right here, right now. But I found another tweet. This is from Power Trip Bets.
I love Power Trip Bets.
This is the first time I've ever seen them.
So I listen to the Power Trip basically every day.
Are they connected?
Well, so I don't think like in a actual professional standpoint, Power Trip Bets is connected.
Sure.
But they're friends with the Power Trip show. The guy that runs that account, he's been on the show many times over the years. He essentially like keeps track because the guys on the Power Trip, they like make bets with each other, like, oh, hey, the national championship game tonight, who you got? Okay, $100 on that. Like the Power Trip Bets, he listens every day and he keeps tags and like tweets out like, oh yeah, meat sauce bet Ben Lieber $100, this and this. He like keeps tracks to the point that on the Power Trip, I'm getting off on another tangent here. The Power Trip will be like, I don't know. Do I have a bet with you? Hey, Power Trip Bets, tweet at us if we have a bet. And within minutes, you'll hear on the show like, oh yeah, Power Trip Bets tweeted at us. He said we do have a bet on that. Like, you know, like he's he's a good follow on Twitter at Power Trip Bets. I'm pretty sure it is, but
it is.
Keep going
at Power Trip Bets. I found this, didn't know any of that context at all, but that is helpful, and I figured it was at least somewhat connected to the Power Trip radio show. So put out this top 10 highest paid NFL coaches chart. And I'll just quickly kind of recap for those that are listening.
This is current.
This is current. Okay. Yep. And if you're watching, I'll throw the tweet up here on the screen so you can see it. But if you're listening, I'll just quickly go down the list of names and their average annual salary. So at the top of the list, you got Andy Reid, $20 million.
Sure.
Sean Payton, $18 million.
Okay.
Mike Tomlin at number 3, $16, tied with Jim Harbaugh in third place again at $16 million. Sean McVay, $15 million. Kyle Shanahan, $14 million. John Harbaugh, $12 million. Dan Campbell, $11 million. Sean McDermott, $11 million. And Mike McDonald, I think he was a first-year head coach with the Seahawks.
Yeah.
$9 million. Okay. So the question was asked by Power Trip Bets, if you were the Wilfs, what would you pay KOC per year, given this top 10 list of coaches? Another thing that you're not seeing if you're not watching is there's a column for a number of titles that these coaches have won. Andy Reid has 3, a handful of them have 1, and a handful have 0. And then it also has their coaching tenure listed. So like Andy Reid's been coaching for 26 years, but Mike McDonald, this was his first year as a head coach. So you got to consider everything. KOC's now completed 3 years of coaching. He would be second to last in terms of tenure on this list. But he's won a lot of games in his 3 years, and he's faced a lot of adversity and coached through that. Last season specifically, losing Justin Jefferson for a while, losing Kirk Cousins for good. He's coached really well, got himself into the playoffs 2 years ago. Obviously, last year was kind of just what it was with injury, got them into the playoffs again this year. If you're the Wilfs, what are you paying KOC?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. And I'll preface it by saying I'm kind of surprised they haven't already announced like a contract extension. That Jay Glazer comment about, oh, he could be traded, he's disgruntled or whatever he said, I initially was like, that's bullcrap. But then I saw a tweet from maybe even like Ben Lieber, like, I wonder if that's coming from KOC's side, like his people leaking something or talking to somebody in the media. And it's like, oh, if that's true, which I still kind of think that's not true, but if it is, that would say a lot. Like KOC, and the few times he's talked about it in the media, you know, in press conferences, he's been over the moon. I love the Wilfs. I love being the Vikings coach. I only ever want to be here and lead these men here. And yeah, he's said the right things, but yeah, I'm surprised it hasn't happened already. And it's one of those, like, there may be listeners, you know, listening to us this episode right now thinking like, why are they talking about this? They announced it, you know, yesterday, or, you know, like it could happen that soon. If you're looking at it purely as like, where does he stack up against those list of coaches and their salaries, and where should he be? It feels like he should be lower than Mike Tomlin right now, but definitely higher than the Seahawks, like McDonald. I saw another tweet today, and I didn't save it or retweet it or anything, and it may have been just pure speculation, but Lions offensive coordinator Ben Johnson, seems like he's going to get hired by the Bears. Tom Pelissero and, you know, everybody else, Schefter, everybody else tweeted that out. And I saw a tweet saying, sounds like it could be anywhere from like 11 to 13 for Ben Johnson. If that's true, which it could have been just a BS like fan person saying like, oh, I think that's what you should get. But if that were true, KOC should be at like 15 then, you know, if that's the case.
Yeah.
Either way, I think he should be in the upper echelon of average annual salaries for coaches. And I recognize he doesn't have a title, and there's a handful of coaches that have a title. He doesn't have a playoff win. There's a handful of coaches that have a playoff win. So I get that that's a factor too, but you're looking at the future. He feels like a guy that should get, I don't know, 13-16 or something crazy like that.
Yeah, that would put him up there with the likes of Tomlin, Harbaugh, McVay, Shanahan. So, and that's Jim Harbaugh, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Right. So Jim and John are both on this list. Jim apparently makes $4 million more than his brother.
He's also got a Super Bowl win.
He
a
does.
couple, right?
Yeah.
Or at least one.
He's got one. Yep. But yeah, I mean, I think he's definitely like up there with Shanahan for sure. Shanahan makes 14 right now. Average.
Okay.
Shanahan doesn't have a title, but he's got 5 more years coaching.
And a bunch of championship game experiences, a couple Super Bowl appearances. Yeah.
So I think he's up there. And I honestly, I think if KOC stays the path, if he continues to work with Kwesi, brings in good guys, and he develops the guys that are brought in, especially in the draft, but also through free agency, which we saw with Sam Darnold. I mean, Sam Darnold was kind of the Cinderella story this year. Like, he went from zero to hero like that, and it was, I think, largely because of Kevin O'Connell. We could maybe attribute some of that to Josh McCown as well, but man.
And I think, sorry to cut you off, but I feel like a part of Sam Darnold's overall development, you can't understate his year with the 49ers either. That had to have been a good foundation too. And then it just got extended with his year with the Vikings so far. So
speaking of that, there was another trade rumor floated out there that I don't know that I buy into at all, but a proposed trade that the Vikings would make with the Niners to get Brock Purdy, which I also think is kind of ridiculous. And I think as Vikings fans who sit here weekly, drink beer, and talk about the Vikings and follow the Vikings obnoxiously, I think we're all just ready to see JJ McCarthy. We just want to see number 9 in purple. We want to see what he can do. If he's a bust, he's a bust, but I don't think he is. He proved that he can play really well. He can prove that he can play in big games on big stages. He won a national championship last year, and unlike another quarterback that we know this year, didn't just crumble in the limelight, So I don't know. I think I can speak for a lot of Vikings fans out there, probably most Vikings fans. Like, let's just cut the crap. Move on from Sam Darnold. Let's stop talking about Aaron Rodgers or Brock Purdy or anybody else coming to the Vikings. Daniel Jones, whatever. He can be the backup, or he can go somewhere else too. That's fine. We want to see number 9 in purple. We want to see him gain a little bit of weight because it looks like he lost some pounds.
He's got an off season for that.
In recovery. We want to see him come out and just impress the socks out of us.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see.
My official stance as of this moment, which I just admitted has changed in the last few weeks. Let Sam Darnold go. Thanks, Sam, for the magical year. It was awesome. Go get your payday. Let's roll with JJ McCarthy and then have a solid option at QB2. My first thought is Daniel Jones because he's already in the building. If it's not him, then there's somebody else. There's other solid options for QB2. But either way, JJ McCarthy, that's step 1. That's my official stance.
Yeah, I agree. Yep. And we keep coming back to that because I think that's the biggest question this franchise faces this offseason. What do you do at quarterback? And yeah, the KOC contract will come. I think Kwesi, I think that's another contract extension that probably needs to be signed sooner rather than later if the Wilfs think that he's done a good enough job to earn that.
2 questions for you on that. Okay. I think we may have slightly differing opinions, but nothing crazy. Do you think, question 1, do you think KOC and Kwesi at this point are package deals?
I wouldn't say they're a package deal, but I think they work really well together.
Okay. I agree.
That's my official answer.
I would answer the exact same way. It seems like they're really good together, but I don't think you have to sign the other if you sign one and vice versa.
Correct.
Question 2. At this moment, would you... Sounds like we'd both be comfortable if the Vikings gave KOC like a 10-year contract. Something, like just go.
Yeah. Yep.
He's the guy. We're good. Like, give him a 10-year contract. Give him a 5, a solid, not just a 1 or 2. Like, I think I'm pretty confident in saying we'd both be totally good with them locking in with KOC.
Yep. Agreed.
would you want that same deal for Kwesi, or would you be okay with like, all right, we'll see another year or two what you can do, or even what else is out there? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
I think if you sign both of them to the same length of a deal, then you communicate to the general public, to a fan like us, that they are a package deal. I think you evaluate them separately.
Yeah, you have to.
I think you evaluate KOC for the product on the field because that's what he's responsible for. I think you evaluate Kwesi for the team that he's assembled and how he's navigated all the ups and downs of a season. And I have a lot of evidence that I could provide for Kwesi as well. I think we've talked a lot about KOC already. Like, man, he's done a really good job. 3 seasons, navigated a lot of stuff. But, like, you got to think about Kwesi in those moments, too. Bringing in Josh Dobbs, that was a heck of a move for a GM to make at that point in the season. And it didn't turn out great, but it also wasn't a crash and burn kind of situation.
For a minute, though, I was starting to think, like, well, crap, now they're going to have to pay Josh Dobbs like $40 million a year.
Yeah.
And he was essentially free to get, like, it was a 6th round pick or something like that. But yeah, anyways,
Cam Robinson, that was another one. Like, huge. Christian Darrisaw goes down and Kwesi goes out and finds a suitable replacement for him. One that I saw today, some people are thinking, like, what if he sticks around, and what if he
I'd be okay with
maybe probably isn't a tackle once Darrisaw is healthy, but maybe he's a guard. Maybe he solidifies
if he's able to switch to that position.
Yeah, maybe he solidifies that interior side of things that the Vikings really struggled with. So I don't know. I think there's a lot of things that we could point to like that. That's like, yeah, Kwesi, man, he knows what he's doing, and he can wheel and deal with the best of them in the GM sphere. Like, I always come back to Moneyball when I think about that, because that's a movie about a GM in pro sports, and I just picture, Kwesi on the phone all the time, like, hey, we'll consider that. Let me talk. And hangs up the phone, talk to KOC, talk to the owners. Yeah, we can do that. Let's do it, kind of thing. So I don't know what he's like, but I think they both deserve an extension. I don't know that you extend both of them to the same length of contract. I think if one has a shorter leash than the other, I think maybe it's Kwesi.
I would agree.
Just because the draft hasn't been great for Kwesi.
That's the big thing.
And he still has time to redeem that, I think. Although this year's draft class doesn't look amazing at all, especially for positions that Vikings need, and the fact that we don't have a lot of picks.
Yeah, they only have, as of this moment, the Vikings only officially have 3 picks, a first and 2 5s.
Yeah.
And I think they're expecting to get 2 comp picks.
Yeah.
Maybe a third and maybe another third, but maybe something later.
And I would also expect Kwesi to get back in at some point.
Maybe. We kind of thought that last year too, with their like 3rd day or 2nd day picks. And I think it was the 2nd of the 3 days of the draft. They either made 1 pick or none at all. Yep. I think they traded up for that 2nd first rounder to get Dallas Turner.
Yeah.
And there's that video of Kwesi in the draft room, like, don't worry, guys, like, to all the scouts and whoever else in the room, like, we'll get back in. And they went the whole 2nd day without making a pick at all. Which, I mean, it is what it is. It's not like they lost the Super Bowl because they didn't make a pick that day. But yeah, I mean, I think what I think you were about to allude to is that Kwesi, if he has a flaw, it's the draft. And that's a huge thing for a GM. And either, you go another couple of years and it's similar and you need to get rid of him, or you need to get like a specific assistant GM whose job is the draft or something like that. Get him some help.
I think, and you can't judge Kwesi on this coming draft, the 2025 draft alone, because you're going to have so many picks. And I think there are going to be a lot of fringe Vikings fans out there who are going to be like, this was a terrible draft. Get rid of him. He's terrible. He put us in this position in the first place. But yeah, he did put us in that position. But you got to look back at all of the things that he did to get good players on that roster, whether or not they were draft picks or not. He may have traded away some draft picks. I don't even remember what all of the conditions of trades were. I'm not good at tracking all that, but I feel like, some of those have actually been pretty advantageous for the Vikings. So you can't throw out one draft because you only have 3 picks.
I agree with you overall on that. You can't judge him by one draft, but I'll play devil's advocate a little bit and say, that's one of what will have been 4 drafts, I believe. And there's not a lot. I mean, you could, out of so far 3 drafts, and I hope I'm not missing a big name, but I mean, who have they really gotten? I think Jordan Addison, he's really good. He's pretty good. But people immediately say, well, KOC made him draft that. I don't know the ins and outs of that.
Darisaw?
No, Darisaw was Spielman.
He a Spielman draft?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Lewis Seen is a major negative, but I think Kwesi will say, like, yeah, that was a horrible situation. Who else? Who else have they? JJ McCarthy, maybe, but we've seen a few plays of a preseason game from him.
Yep.
I don't think Cam Bynum was his.
Dallas Turner,
but that's a maybe too.
That's a maybe.
That's only a maybe because there's 2 Pro Bowlers in front of him at his position, and
Brian Flores was his defensive coordinator, and Brian Flores doesn't play a lot of rookies. He puts the experienced guys in.
Yeah,
and that's a known thing about Brian Flores. There's a couple other names that come to mind. They're not like great names, but Ed Ingram is still on the roster. He's not great, but
was he?
I'm pretty sure he was drafted the same year as Addison, I want to say. Was
he? Okay.
And there's another name that I can't put my finger on at the moment, but there's a few others that Kwesi has drafted, I think, that are still on the roster, that are still at least contributing. They may not be starters, they may not be Pro Bowlers, but they're...
Ed Ingram was in his first draft.
Yeah.
2 picks after Lewis Seen.
Okay.
Brian Asamoah, who's a special teamer at best.
Yep.
A Caleb Evans, who flashed early but ultimately got cut this year. Ty Chandler, again, seemed like he had a lot of potential, but
still on the roster, still a kick returner, may be gone this year.
Jalen Naylor, who's been up and down. Jordan Addison, Mekhi Blackman, who, I mean, that's not totally fair because he missed the whole season this year and what seemed like he was on the up and up. JJ McCarthy, Dallas Turner, Kyrie Jackson. That's also not fair because rest in peace. Will Reichard.
That was a good pick.
Yeah. It's also, that's about it. Those are the highlights of his draft. Jaron Hall, who got cut. And that's about it.
So all that to say, that's the obvious weakness for Kwesi right now. I think if he really wants to stay with the Vikings long term, not only does he have to draft well with the limited picks that he's got this year, he's got to draft well, hopefully with a full suite of picks the following year.
Well, that's the thing. Both KOC and Kwesi's contract, as of right now, they expire at the end
of the league year.
1 year from now, or a year and 2 months from now.
I thought they were done at the end of this season.
No,
they've still got one more year.
Okay. Unless I'm totally misremembering something, I'm pretty confident they both have all of 25. The 2025 NFL season is the last year of their contracts.
I could see them, and again, I'm just a dude from Iowa drinking beer in a little Tykes chair.
I forget. My feet are going numb, dude.
My tailbone is feeling it for sure. I think they extend KOC before they extend Kwesi. And like I said, Kwesi's got a shorter leash, and I still think he's done enough in free agency, especially in those pinch moments where it's like, okay, he's competent, he knows what he's doing, and maybe we find somebody to help him with the draft. Maybe there's an assistant GM or someone out there that can do that. But I don't think you just cut him after this next year if he doesn't draft well. I don't think he's just looking for new jobs that quickly. So the timing might be a little unfortunate for him, and maybe he is a victim of just kind of digging himself that hole, making the bed that he's got to sleep in. But we'll see. It'll be interesting. Really quick, because we don't want to get too long-winded here, but Brian Flores, what do you think about his chances of returning to the Vikings?
So this is another talking point that maybe even more so that could be outdated sooner than not. It seems like his best chance for a head coaching job, and this is just from what I'm reading on Twitter, which who cares about that? But it seems like Brian Flores' best chance for a head coaching job is with the Jets. And it also seems like the Jets like Glenn from Detroit. And I don't know. I feel like if Flores doesn't get the Jets job, then he's probably back with the Vikings. It also seems like his current preference is like, yeah, Vikings are pretty good right now. Like, I'd be okay with staying with the Vikings. So ultimately, I don't know how it'll work. I hope we get at least one more season of Flores, because I also know, like we were just talking about player acquisition and stuff, like coordinators, they have their game plan, and a little bit less important for offense because KOC, if he's here, it's his game plan. But defense, that's all Flores. He is the head coach of the defense.
Yep.
And I think we've heard specifically, like, Blake Cashman is a Viking because of Flores. Like, he heard about it and was like, let's get that guy. I think Dallas Turner was a big Flores pick. Like, so if Flores were to go, then you've invested in players that maybe don't match up perfectly with whoever comes in next, which is always, for every team at every, side of the ball, that's always something to worry about. So if only for that, I hope Flores stays. Plus, he's proven to be pretty good.
Yeah, I think, too, a lot of the allegations that have come out, I know a lot of former Dolphins players have come out and spoken about what he was like as a head coach.
Yeah.
I think Kevin O'Connell balances out those negative aspects of him and maybe even kind of like pulls him aside sometime, like, hey, man, that's not the culture we're going to create here. Like, if you're ever the head coach someday, sure, go do that. But that's not what we're going to do here. And I think kind of like the cream in this coffee and cream porter, KOC kind of mellows out a pretty intense Brian Flores.
Sure.
Sometimes. I could be wrong on all that. I'm just speculating.
Yeah.
But
people also are capable of growing and learning and from their mistakes and their successes.
For sure.
I think it was Fitzpatrick. What's his first name? Ryan Fitzpatrick, who had some pretty candid, but at least it sounded honest thoughts on Flores, because he was a Dolphin when Flores was the head coach. And it's like, yeah, he kind of burned a lot of bridges. He kind of seemed like he was trying to be a Belichick guy, which, if that's all you know, that's all you're going to do. But maybe a handful of years removed, you learn and you grow and you figure out exactly how you want to be a head coach. And that's all, if all of that is true or whatever. I think he will be a head coach in the league again. I hope it's not for at least another year. But I kind of went back to old Skol Hop episodes, and I started listening to the first episode 1, and both of us were like, yeah, I kind of hope he's a one and done Vikings coach, because that means he did really good and the Vikings defense was amazing. But Flores has been the only defensive coordinator in the whole life of the Skol Hop, which we're pushing 2 years now. So
yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And I'm okay if he continues to be the defensive coordinator. I like the guy a lot. Obviously, this defense was kind of the heart and soul of the team this year. And even going back to last year, despite the struggles, I mean, you can't forget the 3-0 victory over the Raiders last season. Yeah. Like, that was the defense. The offense obviously could do nothing, and the defense shut out the Raiders. So, like, yeah, you got to like a guy like Brian Flores. I think his head coaching opportunities are quickly drying up right now this cycle, which I think makes it pretty likely that he comes back to the Vikings, and I'm for it. I'm there for it. I think, honestly, the more that can stay the same from this season, the better things are next season.
Exactly.
And I think I even extend that all the way out to Harrison Smith, as old as he's getting.
Harry.
Like, man, if you're listening out there, and you're probably not, but we would love to see you play another season, even if you're on a limited snap count and you're in on some key plays and that's it. We get it. You're about done, but man, I love watching 22 play football. He's fun to watch.
I think he's probably done, but I hope he's not. I hope he comes back.
Let's finish this out really quick because we're continuing to talk about just what's next. You know, the season's over for the Vikings. We're obviously not playing for a Super Bowl. Handful of Pro Bowlers. That'll be fun in a couple of weeks. But what one position group do you think Kwesi and KOC really need to target in the draft and in free agency?
Well, I have a 1A and a 1B, but if it has to be one, interior offensive line. Bradbury, I'm a fan of him, but ultimately at the end of the day, I might be a bigger mass individual. I'm definitely shorter, but I might be a bigger mass individual than Bradbury. I'm not saying I would be a better starting center than him. That would be ridiculous. I can't run a mile without taking a break. But I think the Vikings interior offensive line, I'm kind of done messing around with Dalton Reisner. Like, he's super good dude and he's stepped in and played okay, but like it's not getting the job done. I think Blake Brandel, I think you said maybe a week or so ago, like he's the one of the three on the interior that maybe you fully bring back and you're okay with because he played okay. But even then, blow up that interior offensive line and spend some money, get some Kwesi. If Kwesi's proven one thing about himself, it's that he can sign some really good free agents.
Yes.
Go get those guys, 2 or 3 new interior offensive linemen. That's what I'm looking most forward to this offseason.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that for even a second. But I would maybe explore either in the draft or free agency. Honestly, it doesn't matter to me. As long as you don't overpay and as long as you get somebody young, I think the Vikings need a running back.
Okay. Yeah.
In the 3 seasons that KOC's been the coach, I think I saw something out there that said the Vikings have been in the bottom tier of the league in running the football. And part of that is his coaching style. He's a former quarterback. He likes to throw the ball. We get that. And we saw it with Kirk Cousins. I mean, Kirk was throwing the ball 35, 40, 45 times a game, almost every game. The dude had to have ice on his shoulder probably for the whole next day. Like every Monday, he probably just spent with ice on his shoulder because he's throwing so much.
Well, he brought in his own like massage therapist or whatever it was. We saw in the quarterback series.
Quarterback documentary. But I think that's an area that KOC can grow in, is finding ways to incorporate the run, because we're seeing that with these really successful teams that are still left in the playoffs. You've got Saquon, who's killing it and the league's leading rusher with Philly. You've also got Derrick Henry, who played really well. They're out of the playoffs now, but the other teams that are left either have really good mobile quarterbacks like Jaden Daniels, who led his team in rushing. I'm pretty sure Josh Allen led the Bills in rushing.
They've
too.
got James Cook though, too.
But they do have James
Singletary.
Cook. Yeah. So the point is, you have to find balance on offense, and you can't be this pass-heavy offense that the Vikings really have been for all 3 years of KOC's tenure.
Yep.
So I think you got to find that running back. And there are probably a lot of people out there that would side with you because you can't run the ball or pass the ball effectively if you don't have the protection up front. And I definitely agree with that. But if you get what you want, then I want to get what I want. And then if we both get what we want, then, hey, man, the Vikings could be a force to be reckoned with next season.
Yeah, I agree with you. Running back, they need an upgrade. They've since Dalvin Cook's decline, they haven't had a decent running back. Aaron Jones impressed me more than I thought he would, and definitely great locker room guy, and he was a 1,000-yard rusher. Like, you can't take that away. He's pretty decent.
One of the better seasons of his career this season with the Vikings, which was fun to watch.
But imagine how much better his season would have been if the Vikings had just a stone-cold mauler. One at the guard position. Just a guy that, like, people run away from. Like, just imagine if Sam Darnold, some of the plays, he took the snap, looked up, and immediately had to throw the ball away. Like, that interior offensive line, we would forget about it because we'd never think about it because they're so good. If they were amazing and did their jobs at an elite level rather than just a decent level, which is what they are right now, it would solve a lot of problems.
Yeah, you've got really good tackles on the outside, especially when Darisaw comes back and he's healthy. And if you're able to keep Brian O'Neill, and I think he's on that list of free agents, is he not?
No.
Next year
he's got at least one more year on his deal, and he might actually be able to, because I think he's one of those you can restructure very easily, save a bunch of money on the cap, and it would spread it out in the future. But I think they could save like $15 or more million just by an easy restructure. He wouldn't be losing any money. It would just be spreading it out differently.
He's a guy the Vikings definitely need to bring back because he solidifies that right side. And then I think you figure out patchwork on the left side until Darisaw gets back healthy.
Which maybe that is Cam Robinson again. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it is Cam Robinson. He seems a little bit hefty in the price tag for me to be just a patchwork guy, especially considering the really big contract that they signed Darisaw to. I don't know if you want all of that money on the books for the season next year, but we'll see.
To your point, if Cam Robinson has some position flexibility, once Darisaw's back, you don't have to just get rid of Cam Robinson.
If he can move inside to the guard, he's a little bit smaller than Darisaw. Darisaw's a little taller, I think.
And I don't know if he's able to do that. I know it's not like as easy as saying like, okay, just play that position over tackle. Like guard and tackle are very different positions too. So,
well, we did say, I think it was last week on episode 75, Cam Robinson is probably the most likely to leave.
Probably, because he'll be the first to get paid more. Maybe the second after Darnold to get paid more than the Vikings will want to pay.
And I think if I could change it now, knowing what we know now after the Rams game, I think Sam Darnold's maybe most likely to leave at this point. Especially
and he deserves it. He deserves a payday.
Yeah, and especially knowing the options that the Vikings have at quarterback. It's not like the 08-09 season where the Vikings had this black hole of nothingness, as you described it earlier, the quarterback position, and then all of a sudden Brett Favre happened upon them, and they're like, all right, let's do this.
You're right. Better get ready to pull out your old Kirk Cousins jerseys and rip that off and put Rodgers on the back. So.
No thanks. I'll pass.
All right, man. What did you ultimately think of this No Coast Coffee and Cream Porter?
This is a really good beer.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. It's, like I said earlier, it's very balanced.
Yeah.
I like coffee. I like hot, black, no cream coffee in the morning. That's how I wake up pretty much every day. So when it comes to that coffee, I want hot, I want black, I want a rich, bold flavor. I don't want watery Folgers, whatever. But when it comes to beer, I want something maybe a little more balanced. If I'm going to drink a coffee beer, I want it to have maybe a little bit of that cream flavor to it. And this hits the spot. This is definitely maybe a top tier coffee beer that I've had.
Yeah, this is one of the better ones I've had. This Tip the Cow, the Mint Tip the Cow, those are probably at this moment some of my favorite coffee beers. And it's kind of crazy. I've only had two, but yeah, this is really good. I agree with everything you just said.
Good stuff for sure. So thanks No Coast for a really great beer, and I'll probably get this one again. I saw it on the shelf a few weeks ago actually, and I was like, I think I'm going to try that, and we should try it on the podcast is what my thought was. And then today when I was at the store, I was like, you know what? We're going to do it. And here we are. And
I don't know if I've seen this on the shelf, so it must be a somewhat new, at least new in our area.
Yeah, I think it's new-ish. But yeah, pretty good for sure.
Yeah.
Well, my tailbone is screaming at this point. I'm going to need to stand up, and I'd like to get back to the desk next week. That would be great.
Let's do it.
A little more comfortable up there. But this wasn't terrible, but definitely a punishment.
Oh, yeah. Sure. It wasn't the worst punishment, but it was a punishment. It's not like we've had one punishment on the wheel, consume an entire jar of pickles, which for a lot of people, it'd be like, oh, I could never do that. We've kind of been looking forward to that.
I love pickles.
We both love, and that's the juice and all. Yeah, it never hit.
That never happened. And then also getting a pie in the face, which so glad you were not looking forward to at all.
Yeah, I didn't want that all up in my face and my beard. That would have been awful.
I could have dealt with that, but I was actually kind of excited about this too, just because I had this little child's set, and
I'm surprised I haven't broken it yet.
Yeah,
if it hasn't broken yet, it's been an hour or so. So
well, if it were built today, that might be different. But this is 1990s construction.
Yeah, if it were built today, I wouldn't have like ever even felt like I was sitting in the chair. It would have just been straight to the ground.
All right. Well, probably time for us to wrap this up here. Good talks, though.
Oh, yeah.
I think we'll have a lot to talk about this offseason. I mean, as stuff starts happening, as moves are made, and then eventually the draft in April. It's going to be a fun offseason. I'm looking forward to it, and we'll probably try to do some fun stuff along the way as well.
For sure. If people want to talk to us, how would they do that, Ev?
Hit us up pretty much anywhere. You can email us, theskolhop@gmail.com. We're pretty responsive there. Otherwise, you're probably watching or listening on either YouTube or Spotify. You can drop comments there. We'll respond to those. Otherwise, our website, theskolhop.com.
I will be updating that. It's pretty out of date right now, but I need to get back to it.
It's all good, and I can help with that too. But anyways, we're out there. Just Google us, the Skol Hop.
All the socials. TikTok apparently is still going on.
Yeah,
so
hey, we're back on TikTok, so we're not going to lose like 8 million views or whatever we have on that platform.
Well, like almost 4,700 followers. They're our most followed place.
So go follow us there. Go follow us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, pretty much wherever you get your podcasts or wherever you're hanging out on social media, we're probably there too.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Go check us out.
All right, man. I just finished my beer, but great episode. Great talk. Skol.
Skol. Hey Vikings fans, Evan here from the Skol Hop, and we just wanted to say thank you again so much for listening to the Skol Hop, and we also wanted to take one more opportunity to let you know that this episode of the Skol Hop has been brought to you by Big Top Ventures. If you're considering taking an all-inclusive trip to either Mexico or Jamaica, reach out to our friends at Big Top Ventures at bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. Once again, that's bigtopventuresllc@gmail.com. You can get the lowest rate possible on several all-inclusive resorts throughout the region. Big Top Ventures. Step right up to your next big adventure. And thanks again for listening to the Skol Hop. Yeah, me too. That hurts. I'm so sore.